Let's look at that a little more closely. We'll look at the antibody and allergen response. And an allergen is what we call an antigen that stimulates an allergic response. Don't forget to breathe. So we have an allergen entering the body, and it binds to B cells. Recall we have B cells and T cells in our adaptive immune system. What this does is it sensitizes the B cell. And the B cell then releases a type of antibody called IgE. I will talk to you more about that. And those IgE antibodies are very specific for that specific allergen. The IgE antibodies will attach to mast cells in the tissue. These mast cells contain histamine. This is all part of the primary immune response. And then somewhere down the road, I can't tell you when you're exposed to that allergen, the reaction occurs much more quickly. Remember, primary immune response takes time. Secondary immune response occurs much more quickly, and histamine is released. And the histamine is what causes the symptoms of an immune response. Many of you may have experienced when you have been, if you are allergic to pollen, or if you're allergic to mosquitoes, that when you get bitten by a mosquito or when pollen's out, your eyes water, your eyes itch, your nose waters, your eyes water, your body itches, your nose runs. Those are all related to histamine release. Those are localized reactions. A systemic reaction, however, is a life-threatening allergic reaction that causes system-wide inflammation by a massive release of histamine that occurs throughout the body. And these symptoms include localized symptoms that you have felt, itching, hives, but then they also include difficulty swallowing, abdominal cramps, a drop in blood pressure, and if you don't get an EpiPen, if you don't get a dose of epinephrine to counteract that histamine, the anaphylactic shock may be fatal. Allergic reactions are one type of immune disorder when your body overreacts to something that is normally considered harmless. Then we have autoimmune responses. In this case, what's happening is that the body isn't responding to some external allergen or pathogen, and recognizing it as non-self. What's happening is the body, for some reason, thinks that certain proteins in your system are non-self. I call this defective recognition of self. What happens is that the immune system makes antibodies against self proteins. So you have your immune system looking at what would be a normal protein in your body. It looks at it as non-self and causes an immune response. Rheumatoid arthritis, type 1 diabetes, multiple sclerosis, these are all examples of autoimmune disorders. Defective recognition of self proteins stimulating an immune response and causing the symptoms of these immune disorders. The third type of immune system disorder is an immune deficiency disorder. These two that I have listed, severe combined immune deficiency disorder, or SCID, and acquired immune deficiency disorder, or AIDS, that's caused by the HIV virus. On the left, we have a young man named David Vetter who had severe combined immune deficiency disorder, and he's the boy in the bubble. Maybe some of you, for your presentation, want to look this up. Unfortunately, David died in 1984. Reese Evans is someone who had a transplant and has a very low profile. I think his parents are keeping his life off the radar. And the last time I read about him was from 2010, and he seems to be doing well. So let me show you a short video on another person who's being treated for severe combined immune deficiency.
Are known as babies in a bubble, unable to fight off any disease or infection. But tonight, researchers have confirmed that a form of gene therapy for children born with no immune system is proving to be successful. 2 studies published in a science journal say that 14 of the 16 children who have had the faulty gene replaced are not only still alive almost a decade later, but are thriving. Our Health and Social Affairs correspondent Victoria MacDonald reports.
It is hard to believe that 10-year-old Mustaf Hassan was once not expected to live. As a baby, he had numerous infections, was failing to thrive. He had, in short, no immune system.
I used to have a tube going down there, and I used to have some other tubes that go down my throat and go down my nose, down to my throat. And they always used to give me some oxygen thing, the gas that I need to take, but I didn't like it, so I used to just run away, and the doctors had to chase me to get me. And my mum normally just used to calm me down, and then I used to take it.
Mustaf is one of a handful of children born every year who was sometimes known as the baby in the bubble. With no immunity, they had to be protected against even the most common everyday
This is
germs.
David Vetter.
Now he's one of 16 children who have over the past decade undergone gene therapy, and results published this evening show that nearly all have not only survived but are thriving. This was, in fact, one of the first diseases to be treated by gene therapy back in 2000, but that program was temporarily halted after one of the children developed leukemia. Now the researchers are saying that they have discovered a way of delivering that gene more safely and effectively, and for the first time they're using the word cure. The first child in the UK to have had the faulty gene taken out and replaced with one that works was Rhys Evans, seen here as a baby, then again at 2 years old just after the treatment at Great Ormond Street Hospital in London, happy and healthy. Now the 2 papers published in the journal Science Translational Medicine confirm that this treatment does work. 14 of the 16 cases, which includes Mustaf, have been successful.
What we've been able to do is to take out his bone marrow and introduce into his bone marrow a healthy working copy of that gene and give that bone marrow back to him so that his bone marrow now has the signal and the right message to build a new immune system.
Children like Mustaf often didn't survive beyond their first birthdays. Now, nearly 8 years since his treatment, he's caught nothing worse than a common cold.
The condition that these young men had is called SCID, Severe Combined Immune Deficiency Disorder, in which they have a non-functioning immune system. This is an X-linked recessive disorder. You don't need to know this, and we'll talk about this when we talk about genetics. AIDS is acquired immune deficiency disorder. Somebody is infected with the human immunodeficiency virus, and over time, if you don't have a system that responds to the medication, if the person doesn't have insurance or a support system, then a type of T cell, part of the adaptive immune response known as the helper T cell, we didn't go into that kind of detail, those numbers decrease, and when they get below a certain amount, the person is no longer said to have the HIV virus, but they are said to have progressed to having AIDS, and it can be fatal. Fortunately, if the person is fortunate enough to have health care and fortunate enough to have a support system, people can live a long time with HIV. All right, that's all I have for you for now.